Year 5. Nice to see you all back again. Hope you've had a nice week. Rusty and I have been out on lots of walks, enjoying the fresh air. Hope you're managing to get out and get some exercise and enjoy the sunshine. Okay, this week's story. I'm really looking forward to this one. It's The Butterfly Lion by Michael Morpurgo. I've not read this one, so I'm really looking forward to the story because he does write very good stories. He's a very good writer. So I'm sure this one's going to be every bit as good as I'm hoping it will be. It's quite a long book, so we're probably going to have to do this over 2 or 3 weeks, okay? So settle down, relax, and let's get started. Okay, here we go. The Butterfly Lion, Part 1. Butterflies live only short lives. They flower and flutter for just a few glorious weeks and then they die. To see them, you have to be in the right place at the right time. And that's how it was when I saw the butterfly lion. I happened to be just in the right place at just the right time. I didn't dream him. I didn't dream any of it. I saw him, blue and shimmering in the sun, one afternoon in June when I was young. A long time ago, but I don't forget. I mustn't forget. I promised I wouldn't. I was 10 and away at boarding school in deepest Wiltshire. I was far from home and I didn't want to be. It was a diet of Latin and stew, rugby and detentions, cross-country runs and chilblains and marks and squeaky beds and semolina pudding. And then there was Basher Beaumont, who terrorised and tormented me so that I lived every waking moment of my life in dread of him. I'd often thought of running away, but only ever once plucked up the courage to do it. I was homesick after a letter from my mother. Basher Beaumont had cornered me in the boot room and smeared black shoe polish in my hair, and Mr. Carter had stood me in the corner with a book on my head all through the lesson, his favourite torture. I was more miserable than ever before. I picked at the plaster on the wall and determined there and then I would run away. I took off next Sunday afternoon. With any luck, I wouldn't be missed till supper, and by that time I'd be home and free. I climbed the fence at the bottom of the school park behind the trees where I couldn't be seen, and then I ran for it. I ran as if bloodhounds were after me, not stopping till I was through Innocent's Breach and out into the roads beyond. I had my escape all planned. I would walk to the station, it was only 5 miles or so, and catch the train to London. Then I'd take the underground home and I'd just walk in and tell them that I was never ever going back. There wasn't much traffic, but all the same, I turned the collar up on my raincoat so that nobody could catch a glimpse of my uniform. It was beginning to rain now. Those heavy, hard drops. That means there's more of the same on the way. I crossed the road and ran along the wide grass verge under the shelter of the trees. Beyond the grass verge was a high brick wall, much of it covered in ivy. It stretched away into the distance, continuous as far as the eye could see, except for a massive arched gateway at the bend in the road. A great stone lion bestowed the gateway, and as I came closer I could see it was roaring in the rain, his lips curled and his teeth bared. I stopped and stared at him for a moment, and that was when I heard a car slowing down behind me. I did not think twice. I pushed open the iron gate and darted through and flattened myself behind a stone pillar. I watched the car until it had disappeared around the bend. To be caught would mean a caning. 4 strokes, maybe 6, across the back of the knees. Worse, I would be back at school, back to detentions, back to Basher Beaumont. To go along the road was dangerous, too dangerous. I would try to cut across country to the station. It would be longer, but safer that way. I was still deciding which direction to take when I heard a voice from behind me. "Who are you? What do you want?" I turned. "Who are you?" she asked it again. The old lady who stood before me was no bigger than I was. She scrutinised me from under the shadow of her dripping straw hat. She had piercing dark eyes that I did not want to look into. "I didn't think it would rain," she said, her voice gentle. "Hello. Lost, are you?" I said nothing. She had a dog on a leash at her side, a big dog. There was an ominous growl in his throat, and his hackles were up at the back. She smiled. "The dog says you're on private property," she went on, pointing her stick at me accusingly. She edged aside my raincoat with her stick. "Ran away from school, did you? Well, if it's anything like it used to be, I can't say I blame you. But we can't just stand here in the rain, can we? You'd better come inside. We'll give him some tea, shall we, Jack?" "Oh, don't worry about Jack. He's all bark and no bite." But looking at Jack, I found that hard to believe. I don't know why, but I never for one moment thought of running off. I often wondered later why I went with her so readily. I think it's because she expected me to, sort of willed me to somehow. I followed the old lady and her dog up to the house, which was huge as my school. It looked as if it had grown out of the ground. There was hardly a brick or a stone or a tile to be seen. The entire building was smothered in red creeper. And there were a dozen ivy-clad chimneys sprouting skywards from the roof. We sat down close to the stove in a vast vaulted kitchen. "The kitchen's always the warmest place," she said, opening the oven door. "We'll have you dry in no time. Scones?" she went on, bending down with some difficulty and reaching inside. "I always have scones on a Sunday, and tea to wash it down. All right for you?" She went on chatting away as she busied herself with the kettle and the teapot. The dog eyed me all the while from his basket, unblinking. "I was just thinking," she said, "you'll be the first young man I've had inside this house since Bertie." Then she was silent for a while. The smell of the scones wafted through the kitchen. I ate 3 before I even touched my tea. They were sweet and crumbly and succulent with melting butter. She talked on merrily again to me, to the dog. I wasn't sure which. I wasn't really listening. I was looking out of the window behind her. The sun was bursting through the clouds and lighting the hillside. A perfect rainbow arched through the sky. But miraculous though it wasn't the rainbow that fascinated me. Somehow the clouds were casting a strange shadow over the hillside. A shadow the shape of a lion, roaring like the one in the archway. "Sun's come out," said the old lady, offering me another scone. I took it eagerly. Always does, you know. It may be difficult to remember sometimes, but there's always some behind the clouds, and the clouds do go in the end, honestly. She watched me eat, a smile on her face that warmed me to the bone. Don't think I want you to go, because I don't. Nice to see a boy eat so well. Nice to have company. But all the same, I'd better get you back to school after you've had your tea, hadn't I? You'll only be in trouble otherwise. Mustn't run off, you know. You've got to stick it out. See things through. Do what's got to be done, no matter what. She was looking out of the window as she spoke. My Bertie taught me that, bless him. Or maybe I taught him, I can't remember now. And she went on talking and talking, but my mind was elsewhere again. The lion on the hillside was still there, but now he was blue and shimmering in the sunlight. It was as if he was breathing, as if he was alive. It wasn't a shadow anymore, because no shadow is blue. No, you're not seeing things, the old lady whispered. It's not magic. He's real enough. He's our lion, Bertie's and mine. He's our butterfly lion. What do you mean? I asked. She looked at me long and hard. I'll tell you if you like, she said. Would you like to know? Would you really like to know? I nodded. Have another scone and another cup of tea, then I'll take you to Africa, where our lion came from, where my Bertie came from too. Bit of a story I can tell you. Have you ever been to Africa? No, I replied. Well, you're going, she said. We're both going. Suddenly I wasn't hungry anymore. All I wanted now was to hear her story. She sat back in her chair, gazing out of the window. She told it slowly, thinking before each sentence, and all the while she never took her eyes off the butterfly lion, and neither did I. Okay, I'm going to stop there, but if you click straight on to part 2, we'll continue the story.